I'm Eric Freeman. I'm going to discuss foodborne diseases. The purpose of this slideshow is to go ahead and discuss how we deal with foodborne disease outbreaks, how many we actually have. The most current data available, there's a nice web tool I'd like to show you, and the limitations of that data, and of course just what the most common causes of foodborne disease is, like what those pathogens are. This won't be a very long slideshow. The contents we have here is just the title slide and the purpose, which you just saw, and of course this table of contents. The FDA's core response, I'd like to discuss that and how many outbreaks they actually deal with. Then there's like FoodNet Fast, which is a pretty cool tool we'll show you, followed by CDC's actual estimates of foodborne disease, and then we'll go finish off and discuss the actual top 5 pathogens we see in foodborne illnesses in this country. And then I'll sum it up. Okay, we'll start with talking about the Food and Drug Administration's Coordinated Outbreak Response Evaluation, or the CORE network. Food and Drug Administration, of course, deals with regulations dealing with food, so they are tasked with having to respond to outbreaks. So previously, before they formed the CORE network, they'd have a bunch of people that they'd contract in private sector to go ahead and respond to any detected outbreaks they might have had. And then once they've responded, they'd go back to their normal day jobs. But FDA decided they wanted to have full-time team dedicated to responding to foodborne outbreak, and the response has been pretty good. It's improved since they've gone full-time. They have a 3-pronged effort. They detect by going through databases and surveying, see if outbreak might be occurring through like reports from hospitals and various other diagnoses. They'll go ahead and respond once they do detect an outbreak. They'll go ahead and have teams, epidemiologists and such, go find the source of the outbreak, and then they'll go ahead and remove it from circulation. You'll go ahead and see a recall or something on the news occasionally. It might be a response to the FDA finding an outbreak. And then they'll go ahead and deal with prevention. They'll go ahead and figure out what's the cause of that outbreak, and they'll do research to see if maybe there's a new means of circulation occurring, or maybe they can educate new behaviors that can prevent foodborne illness from occurring. Here's a graph I made off some data I got from the FDA's website. So you can see it starts in 2011. There was 32 outbreak investigated by the FDA, and immediately after it's dropped, and you can go ahead and see that trend line. It looks like it's improving. So it looks like the CORE network has made a positive difference in the number of food outbreaks occurring in the United States. Hey, I wanted to show you this nice database available at CDC. It's called FoodNet Fast, Foodborne Disease Active Surveillance Network. It's been going on since 1996. It works in conjunction with various state health organizations, but not all, so it's just a percentage of the country, not the whole country. You can go ahead and look by the various pathogens. We'll be discussing these later. There's plenty of demographics like time points, age, sex, race, geographic area. I mean, here are the states that are participating. I used to work at a lab in Minnesota, so we'd end up reporting a lot of stuff to our state health agency, which in turn probably ended up in this database. So I might have ended up doing the plating for some of these occurring in here. So We can go ahead and look at incidents. You can see if we're getting more or less incidents. We have incidents by month. You can go ahead and see that it occurs more often in the summer months, which is probably because it's warmer in the summer, more favorable for disease. And here's distribution too. Like, this is a pretty helpful graph. You can see that if you got Campylobacter and Salmonella, they are two of the most pervasive foodborne illnesses we diagnose. And I recall that when I would plate stool cultures, when we'd go ahead and we'd use separate plates for each of these because they were so common, it was worthwhile. Yeah, FoodNet Fast is a pretty good tool for looking at what gets diagnosed, but it's not the true incidence of foodborne illness. A lot of foodborne illness is underreported because the symptoms don't necessarily mean you have to go to a hospital and get diagnosis. You normally recover in a few days. It's normally like diarrhea and such. But in 2011, CDC went through all sorts of databases trying to determine what the true incidence is. And they went through like 31 known pathogens, and they found millions of incidents of foodborne illness occurring, some based on like surveys, not off hospital data and such. And they found a little bit different number of causes of foodborne illness. And norovirus they found to be most common, which we didn't even see in the FoodNet Fast. And then there's some other that also were seen in FoodNet Fast, but they showed the top 5 pathogens were responsible for 91% of all foodborne illness. So I am going to go ahead and next slides and go through each of those. Here are the top 5 foodborne diseases the CDC found in their 2011 report. Staphylococcus aureus. It will cause like vomiting, nausea, abdominal cramps. It's rapid onset, so you're gonna go ahead and eat, and not too long after you eat, you're gonna be sick. The source of Staphylococcus is your hands, your face. Probably everybody has some Staphylococcus like on your face. But the one that'll get you sick normally has enterotoxin A being produced in them. So those might be in somebody's face or nose, and then it goes into somebody's food, and then you get sick. There's the Clostridium perfringens. This is a very common pathogen. It produces toxins. It's found on raw meat. Catered food that's kept warm for a long time is a major source of this, because then the bacteria can grow in that catered food, and then you go ahead and get sick. But you don't normally report this sort of illness because normally you'll maybe get diarrhea, but there's no fever, and normally it clears itself up in like 24 hours. There's Campylobacter. It's often a bloody diarrhea. There's fever, abdominal cramps. You don't get this really quick. Normally it'll start like 2 days, and then it could last as long as a week. If you're immunocompromised, it could be life-threatening because it could spread to the bloodstream. It's possible to have person-to-person transmission, and a major source is raw poultry. You have to really cook your food to make sure you don't have Campylobacter poisoning. It's commonly spread in the summer because people do a lot of grilling and stuff. Salmonella. There's lots of types of salmonella. It's very common in farm animals. They don't get sick from it. Reptiles actually are quite common. It's not good to have like a turtle for a kid because that'll have some salmonella on there, but it normally occurs 12 to 72 hours after infection, and it could last like 4 to 7 days. Normally you recover, but it's possible that your bowel movements won't be 100% normal for like maybe a month or two afterwards. And then norovirus, this is the one on the list that is not a bacteria, it's rather a virus, so antibiotics wouldn't help if you did need to treat it. You'll have diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, stomach cramps, fever. 12 to 48 hours after infection, it's very contagious. It spreads most from November to April because people are in closed spaces, so it spreads more easily that way. It's commonly found in shellfish, or at least spread that way, because we don't always heat shellfish very well. You'll just go ahead and steam it, and it will survive like 140 degrees Fahrenheit a lot of the time. So a lot of times undercooking shellfish will lead to norovirus infection. And once you're infected, you'll get sick, but you'll recover within like a week. But the problem with it is you'll still have live norovirus and it's still contagious, like up to 2 weeks after you already got better. So it's important to keep washing your hands and such, and being aware that you could still be spreading disease. Hopefully you found this informative. We went through FDA's core network and how they respond to disease, the number of outbreaks we've had in the US over the last few years and how it's been improving. And then I went ahead and showed you the FoodNet FAST database, and that has plenty of good information. You should go ahead and explore that a little more on your own. And then I showed you the CDC's 2011 report and their most common pathogens, and we also went into detail on the top 5 most common pathogens. Thank you for listening. Bye.